So, are we actually heading into a new ice age? It's one of those questions that sounds like it's pulled straight from a Hollywood disaster movie, but it's a headline that's been popping up more and more. Let's dig into that idea and see what the science really has to say.
Okay, when you read something like this, it's pretty alarming, right? It conjures up these images of a super cold future that's totally out of our hands. But is a new ice age really just around the corner? Let's unpack the science behind that exact question.
To figure out where we're going, we've got to look back. Like way, way back. See, our planet has this incredibly long history of freezing over and then thawing out again. And get this, technically, we're living in an ice age right now. We're just in one of the warmer, more pleasant bits.
Yeah, these huge climate swings are a completely normal part of our planet's rhythm. We're chilling out in what's called an interglacial period right now, but this is just one chapter in a much, much bigger story, a story that's driven by these incredible forces way out in space. So if these cycles are normal, what's in charge? What's pulling the strings? Well, it turns out Earth's climate follows a kind of natural pacemaker, a predictable cosmic rhythm that tells the planet when it's time to cool down and when it's time to warm back up. And that pacemaker actually has a name, Milankovitch cycles. The idea here is absolutely fascinating. Basically, we're talking about these tiny, predictable wobbles and shifts in how the Earth moves through space. Over huge stretches of time, these little changes alter how much sunlight hits us, and that's what ultimately kicks off or ends an ice age.
It all boils down to three main movements. First, there's eccentricity. That's just the shape of our orbit changing from a circle to more of an oval. Then you've got obliquity, which is the change in our planet's tilt. And finally, there's precession, a slow wobble, exactly like a spinning top just before it falls over.
And just look at these timescales. We're talking about tens of thousands of years for each cycle. These aren't sudden lurches. They are incredibly slow, gradual, and predictable rhythms that have been shaping our world for millions and millions of years. Now, for a long time, scientists knew these cycles were connected to ice ages, but they could never quite figure out the exact trigger. But recently, they think they've cracked the code. By studying these ancient marine fossils, they found this amazing pattern. And the key, it seems, is the change in Earth's tilt, that obliquity. That's what appears to be the main trigger that plunges the planet into a deep freeze.
So this is huge, because if we found the trigger, it means we can actually make a pretty solid prediction. Based on this cosmic clock, when is the next natural ice age due to arrive?
And there's your answer. About 11,000 years from now. So looks like we can all put away those woolen hats for a little while. The threat of a natural ice age is real, for sure, but it's very, very far away. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. Because while that natural pacemaker is just ticking along slowly in the background, there's another, very different climate tipping point that scientists are getting really worried about, one that could trigger a sudden and much, much more immediate climate shift. I want you to meet the AMOC. Yeah, I know, the name is a mouthful, but just think of it like this. It's a giant conveyor belt in the Atlantic Ocean. It's constantly pulling warm tropical water north, which is what keeps places like Europe way warmer than they should be, and then it cycles the cold water back south. It is absolutely critical for regulating the world's climate. Okay, so here's the problem. That conveyor belt is showing major signs of weakening. As the massive ice sheets in Greenland melt faster and faster, they're dumping just enormous amounts of cold, fresh water into the North Atlantic. And because fresh water is lighter than salt water, it doesn't sink the way it's supposed to. It basically gums up the works and jams the gears of this huge ocean engine. And I want to be clear, this isn't just some theory from a computer model. Scientists are seeing these bright red warning lights flashing right now. There's this persistent cold blob of water just sitting there in the North Atlantic. And at the same time, water is literally piling up and getting warmer off the US East Coast. Both are huge signs that the whole system is slowing down. So what happens if this conveyor belt doesn't just slow down, but stops altogether? Honestly, the consequences would be catastrophic. We aren't talking about a slow change over thousands of years. We are talking about a total transformation of the planet's climate, potentially happening within just a few decades. The impacts would be felt everywhere. Northern Europe could get plunged into a brutal deep freeze. The critical monsoon rains that literally billions of people depend on could just fail. The Amazon could dry up, and sea levels along the US East Coast could shoot up dramatically.
This isn't a gentle cooling. It's an abrupt, chaotic shift in the entire global climate system.
So what are the odds of this happening? A recent study in the journal Nature put a number on it, and it is just shocking. It calculated a 95% chance that the AMOC could collapse before the year 2100 if we keep pumping out emissions at the rate we are now.
So let's just put this all together. We're really talking about two completely different things. You have the natural ice age, driven by these slow cosmic orbital cycles, that's thousands of years away. And then you have a potential AMOC collapse, which is driven by human activity, could happen within our lifetimes, and would trigger a sudden, chaotic climate shift, not a slow, gradual cooling.
And that leaves us with one last, pretty sobering question to think about. While we've been looking to the distant future, worrying about a natural ice age, are our own actions accidentally pushing us toward a totally different, much more sudden, and frankly, far more dangerous kind of freeze? The science seems to be telling us that the real climate threat, it isn't thousands of years away. It's right now, right now.